Europe's history is a grand stage of kings and conquerors, rising empires and fallen dynasties. But while names like the Roman Empire, the British Empire, or Napoleonic France are world famous, many once mighty kingdoms have slipped through the cracks of memory, forgotten by most, but still echoing through our landscapes, languages, and legends. In this episode of Forgotten Kingdoms and Lost Empires, we'll journey through the rise and fall of three fascinating European powers you may never have heard of: the Kingdom of Burgundy, the Avar Khaganate, and the Kingdom of Galicia-Volhynia. Their stories are filled with ambition, bloodshed, mystery, and they remind us how easily even great empires can vanish into the mists of time. Part 1. The Kingdom of Burgundy. A kingdom divided in today's world. Burgundy is best known as a region of France, famous for wine and rolling hills. But in the early Middle Ages, it was the heart of a powerful and complicated kingdom. The Burgundians were originally a Germanic tribe who crossed into Roman Gaul in the 5th century. They founded a kingdom that stretched across parts of modern France, Switzerland, and Italy. For a while they thrived. They were respected allies of Rome, skilled in diplomacy and warfare. But Burgundy's real strength was also its weakness. Location. Nestled between the rising kingdoms of the Franks and the Ostrogoths, Burgundy became a prize for greater powers. In 534 CE, the Frankish kings swallowed the Burgundian kingdom. Yet the name Burgundy survived. For centuries after, new Burgundian kingdoms and duchies rose and fell, often powerful, but always fragmented. By the time of the Renaissance, Burgundy was a dazzlingly rich duchy ruling parts of the Low Countries and rivaling France itself, until its last duke, Charles the Bold, died in 1477, and Burgundy was finally consumed by its neighbors. Burgundy's legacy lives on in Europe's map, culture, and, of course, its wine, but its kingdom is long gone. Part 2. The Avar Khaganate. The forgotten horse lords of Europe. When we think of steppe empires, we usually think of the Mongols or the Huns. But between the 6th and 9th centuries, there was another mighty force sweeping across Eastern Europe: the Avars. The Avars were a nomadic people who arrived in the Carpathian Basin, modern-day Hungary. Around 567 CE, they established a Khaganate, confederation ruled by a Khagan, or supreme ruler, and they dominated Central and Eastern Europe for nearly 250 years. The Avar Khaganate was a terror to its neighbors. From their base in the Pannonian Plain, they launched devastating raids on the Byzantine Empire, the Balkans, and the Frankish territories. They built impressive fortresses, mastered siege warfare, and collected tribute from terrified kingdoms. But perhaps most intriguing is their mystery. We know little about the Avars' language, origins, or culture. Much of what we know comes from their enemies, and archaeology still struggles to unlock their secrets. By the 9th century, the Frankish Emperor Charlemagne crushed the Avar power in a brutal campaign, seizing their fabled treasures, known as the Avar Rings. The Avar people faded into the local Slavic populations, and their empire disappeared. Yet the Avar Khaganate left a lasting imprint on the European map, opening the way for Hungary's rise and shaping the ethnic mix of Central Europe. Part 3. The Kingdom of Galicia-Volhynia, the lost crown of Eastern Europe. Far to the east, in what is now Ukraine and Poland, there once stood a powerful medieval kingdom almost no one talks about today: Galicia-Volhynia. Born in the 12th century from the unification of the principalities of Galicia and Volhynia, this kingdom became a regional powerhouse. It sat on key trade routes between Europe and the Byzantine world, between the Baltic and the Black Sea. Galicia-Volhynia reached its height under King Daniel of Galicia, crowned in 1253 by a papal legate, the only king of the Rus lands to be crowned by the Pope. Daniel was a shrewd diplomat. He fought off Mongol invasions, navigated between Catholic and Orthodox powers, and built thriving cities like Lviv, which still stands today. But after Daniel's death, the kingdom slowly crumbled. The Mongols tightened their grip. Neighboring Poland and Lithuania grew stronger. By the 14th century, Galicia-Volhynia was divided and absorbed by its rivals, leaving only traces in the local identities of western Ukraine and southeastern Poland. For Ukrainians, Galicia-Volhynia remains a symbol of a proud, independent medieval past, a reminder that the lands of Kiev and Lviv were once more than just a frontier. The pattern of power. Why do these kingdoms fascinate us? Because they show a hidden side of history. They remind us that Europe was never just Rome, France, England, or Germany. It was once a patchwork of rival powers, many of whom rose to greatness and then fell. Borders shift, dynasties fall. Cities are renamed, and sometimes all that's left of a kingdom is a few old coins, some stone ruins, or a name on a map. But for those willing to dig into the past, these forgotten kingdoms reveal a Europe far more diverse, chaotic, and fascinating than most textbooks tell us. As we explore the forgotten kingdoms and lost empires of Europe, we didn't just uncover lost histories. We uncover the forces that shape the world we live in today. So next time you hear about Burgundy, the Hungarian plains, or the Ukrainian steppes, remember, beneath today's borders lie centuries of forgotten empires, each with their own rise, glory, and fall. Like, subscribe, and join us as we keep exploring Europe's most fascinating lost worlds. What kingdom or empire do you want us to cover next? Tell us in the comments below.